Listen, man, no sugarcoating here. There's a brutal reality most men only wake up to after being blamed for what they never did, punished for what was out of their control, and discarded despite giving everything they had. The truth? Accountability doesn't exist for women, not in the sense it does for men. You're forced to carry the weight of every misstep, every mistake judged harshly, every emotion buried just to appear strong. Meanwhile, she has the freedom to flip the narrative, rewrite the story, and walk away from the damage she caused without ever having to clean up the wreckage. And society? It protects her from ever facing the mirror. Her friends back it up. Culture glorifies it. And the second you dare to challenge her part in the chaos, you're suddenly the villain. For men, accountability begins early. You fall, you're told to get back up. You cry, you're told to toughen up. You fail, you're told to fix it. But women, they grow up in an environment where the whispers say, "It's not your fault. She was too emotional. She was confused. She didn't feel noticed. She wasn't in the right headspace." Excuses quietly take the place of responsibility. A man breaks something, he must repair it. A woman breaks something, and the story becomes, it broke because she wasn't treated right. Her tears become proof. Her emotions turn into justification. So when she disappears after months of closeness, or cheats and says, "I just felt alone," she believes her own words, because accountability was never expected, only explanation. And here's where it gets maddening if you don't grasp it. In her world, intentions matter more than outcomes. If she didn't intend to hurt you, then she didn't, at least in her mind. If she felt pressured, lost, or scared, even if those feelings came from her own impulses, she considers herself innocent. You, however, are guilty until proven flawless, guilty until you exceed even her own fantasies of perfection. You must remain calm, stable, unshakable. She, meanwhile, can be reckless, impulsive, emotionally explosive. Why? Because no one ever told her that actions still carry weight even when emotions are strong. So she leaves behind destruction and somehow feels like the victim. When love falls apart, the man torments himself. He replays every detail, asks himself what signs he missed, wonders how he could have done better. Nights are spent dissecting memories, blaming himself, even when the fault isn't his. But her? Often, she's already halfway invested in her next chapter before the last one is even buried. Not out of malice, but because her emotional wiring lets her rewrite history. If she didn't feel appreciated, that becomes the truth. If she felt misunderstood, that becomes the story. Reality itself bends under her feelings. Accountability dies, suffocated in the arms of emotion. And the mirror? It doesn't reflect her, it reflects you. You'll notice it most clearly when she talks about her past. Ask her why her last relationship collapsed, and the answers sound like a rehearsed script. He was toxic. He didn't understand me. He wasn't ready for a woman like me. What you almost never hear is, "I was immature. I sabotaged myself. I built walls I couldn't tear down." Because in her world, admitting fault equals admitting she wasn't worthy. And since her sense of worth is bound tightly to outside validation, accountability becomes poison, something she avoids at all costs. So instead of owning her part, she reframes it. Every fight, every mistake, every breakup gets filtered through the lens of emotional justification until responsibility disappears, and even she believes her edited version of events. Social media only fuels the illusion. She posts cryptic quotes about being mistreated, about choosing herself, about healing from some invisible wound. And immediately, a tidal wave of validation drowns any whisper of accountability. Friends flood the comments with "you deserve better," even when she was the one who walked away. Strangers repost her breakup story with sad background music like it's a Netflix drama. She collects more attention from playing the victim than she ever did from your loyalty. And there you are, watching in disbelief. The same woman who begged for your vulnerability, who cried in your arms, who swore forever, is now parading you as the villain in her carefully crafted post-breakup fantasy. Welcome to the black hole of accountability. Now let's talk double standards when it comes to conflict. If she lashes out, throws cruel words, maybe even objects in rage, it's brushed off as passion, as her being emotional, or simply overwhelmed. But if you raise your voice, if you stand firm, if you dare to defend your perspective, you're instantly branded aggressive, toxic, or dangerous. You're told to take her storm without breaking, to serve as her therapist, her punching bag, her wall. Yet the second you say something direct, the second you call out contradictions, suddenly you're the villain again. And if you walk away, that too becomes your crime. You're painted as the one who abandoned her. Because in her story, she's always reacting to your failures, never to the mess she created herself. Even apologies aren't really apologies. They're dressed up escape hatches. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I'm sorry, but you made me act like that. These aren't ownership. They're clever ways of shifting blame back onto you. And the cruelest part? Most men accept it. You nod, forgive, swallow it down, trying to be the bigger person. But every time you do, you reinforce the cycle. You show her she can wound you without consequence, that she can light the fire and still expect you to rebuild the bridge. For a woman shaped by modern culture, honest accountability doesn't land as guidance. It lands as an attack. The instant you calmly highlight a contradiction, a broken promise, or hypocrisy, she doesn't process your words. She hears rejection, judgment, betrayal. Because deep down, no one ever taught her how to reflect without drowning in shame. She's been conditioned to equate accountability with being unloved. So instead of growing, she defends. Instead of apologizing, she rewrites. And you're left stuck in endless debates about emotions that don't even align with reality, while carrying blame for things you never did. This isn't just draining. It's emotional warfare. And unless you see the pattern, you'll keep fighting battles you never even started. So what's the solution? Stop chasing understanding from someone detached from truth. Stop arguing against emotional fiction. Stop demanding ownership from someone who's been shielded from consequence since childhood. Instead, turn accountability back on yourself, not for her chaos, but for your choices. For staying when you should have left. For trying to repair what wasn't yours to fix. For believing you could love her into maturity. Once that realization clicks, you detach. You stop explaining. You stop justifying. You walk away, not bitter, but clear. Because now you know, in her world, accountability is optional. In yours, it's survival. That difference is your freedom. Here's the reality. If a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe admitting she was wrong, she'll never admit it. She'll bend the story until she becomes the one who had to react. And the worst part? She'll convince herself it's true. That's the grip of emotional rationalization. Women don't usually set out to lie to you. They lie to themselves. They can't stomach the discomfort of looking in the mirror and facing their own chaos. So, they paint you as the storm and themselves as the innocent victim caught inside it. And when you start absorbing her version, when you begin apologizing for her decisions, questioning your reality, doubting your truth, that's when you lose yourself completely. That's when you become the emotional doormat she steps on until she's ready to chase the next fantasy. The danger here isn't just emotional exhaustion. It's identity erosion. Because if you stay long enough in a relationship where responsibility never lands on her, you begin to internalize her distorted perception of you. You start wondering. Maybe you were too cold. Maybe you didn't do enough. Maybe it was your fault she cheated, or ghosted, or changed. And little by little, the steady masculine frame inside you crumbles under the weight of trying to fix storms that were never yours, while blaming yourself for the thunder. That's how men lose themselves. Not from weakness, but from loving someone who never once admitted, "That was on me." Watch closely how she handles rejection. If she turns you down, she'll soften it. "I'm not ready. You're too nice. I need time." But if you turn her down, suddenly you're a narcissist, a misogynist, emotionally unavailable. That's accountability in her world, selective and one-sided. She can change her mind. It's empowerment. You change yours. It's fear of commitment. She can date multiple men. It's exploration. You do the same. You're a player. Her freedom equals empowerment. Your freedom equals disrespect. And if you dare to challenge that double standard, you're not being truthful, you're being judgmental. And here's where it gets darker. Plenty of women will push to see how far they can stretch accountability before it snaps. She'll test the waters, flirt openly with another man, cross a boundary, throw out a cruel remark, just to gauge your reaction. If you confront her, she slips into victim mode. You're insecure. You're overreacting. You must have trust issues. But if you stay silent, the line only gets pushed further. She isn't always trying to wound you. She's trying to map the limits. And when those limits don't exist, when you refuse to enforce them, she loses respect. Deep inside her subconscious, a man who tolerates emotional chaos without consequence is a man she cannot fully trust. That's why so much of modern dating looks like romance stripped of accountability. She craves the loyalty of a husband while clinging to the freedom of a single woman. She desires the protection of a strong masculine presence, but resists any form of his leadership. She wants the rewards of a committed partner, but rejects the sacrifices required. And the moment reality demands maturity, she doesn't step up, she exits. Stage left, blaming the script, the set, the audience, anyone but herself. That's why countless men are left blindsided, feeling betrayed, wondering how something that felt so real to them was nothing more than a placeholder to her until her emotions shifted. The cruel irony? She'll call that growth. Pay close attention to how she talks about the men who came before you. A woman who avoids accountability never reflects honestly on her past. Every ex becomes a monster. Every relationship a tragedy. She was always the innocent, never the cause. Listen carefully and you'll catch the pattern. No ownership. Never, "I chose poorly." Never, "I wasn't ready." Never, "I needed to heal first." Just a chorus of blame. And here's the catch. If every ex was a problem, then you're next in line. Why? Because nothing changed. She didn't grow. She didn't reflect. She just recycled her chaos and passed it to the next man who looked like a savior. And every time, that man sinks under the weight. You've got to see this clearly, brother. Accountability hurts. It's uncomfortable. It demands emotional discipline. That's exactly why most people dodge it, especially women conditioned to believe discomfort equals trauma, pain equals oppression, criticism equals violence. So instead of confronting their own reflection, they shut down anyone who dares to hold up the mirror. That includes you. The more honest you are, the more she pushes back. Not because she despises you, but because she despises the way your honesty makes her feel. You disrupt her illusion just by existing. You force her to confront truth she's not prepared to see. And if she isn't ready, she won't thank you, she'll leave. The women who truly grow are the ones who've been broken open, who've hit emotional rock bottom without rescue, who spent their time after heartbreak turning inward instead of running outward. But those women are rare. Most are too busy chasing dopamine hits, applause, and emotional highs to ever stop and ask, What role did I play in this? That's why modern relationships are chaos. Because men are expected to shoulder 100% of the accountability for outcomes that came from only half the input. You're judged for how you reacted to situations you didn't create. And when you try to explain that, you're told you're just making excuses. So how do you handle it? By changing your expectations. You stop waiting for her to own the mess she made. You stop debating her emotional versions of reality. You stop offering second chances to women who never grew from the first one. And you stop trying to love a woman into accountability. It isn't your responsibility. You're not her therapist, not her father, not her coach. You're a man who built himself on truth, on pain, failure, and reflection. You earn discipline. And if she hasn't walked that same path, you release her, not bitterly, but peacefully, because you finally understand the cost of carrying someone else's denial. You must become the man who doesn't flinch at false accusations, who doesn't overexplain when misunderstood, who doesn't lose sleep over the fantasies she spins about you, because you know who you are. You know what you did and what you didn't. If she chooses to stay locked in her emotional narrative, that's her burden, not yours. You stop trying to win inside her world and instead create your own. A world where accountability is the currency, where truth defines love, where growth matters more than validation. And if she wants to enter that world, she rises to meet you. If not, she fades. There's a unique power in detachment. When you no longer crave her understanding, when you stop defending yourself, when you allow her to believe whatever she needs to while you keep moving forward. That's the kind of strength that builds legacy, that commands respect, that attracts the kind of woman who's done with the games and ready to grow. And if she isn't that woman, then she was never meant to be your future. She's nothing more than a test of your frame. And you pass not by fixing her, but by walking away with your soul untouched. The stronger your grounding, the harder her chaos will try to shake it. She'll hurl accusations, unleash tears, twist contradictions, and bait you with emotion. Not because she truly wants your destruction, but because she's never witnessed a man who stays calm in fire. Most men either fold or fight. Few remain still. You become unforgettable the moment you stop reacting. When her emotional storm rushes over you like leaves swept by the wind. When you stand your ground, not to win, but because truth needs no defense. That's the kind of man she never forgets. The one who held his line even when her world tried to break him. Brother, remember this. Her growth is not your burden. Your responsibility is your standards. You're not here to fix her, to teach her, or to wait around until she changes. Your role is to lead by example, and that requires leaving when your peace is under attack, walking away when your character is torn down, refusing to remain in relationships where you're the one endlessly apologizing for chaos you never caused. The longer you stay, the more you validate her version of reality. And that lie? It destroys you both. One day, maybe years down the line, she may look back and realize what slipped away. She'll remember the man who never tried to control her, yet never allowed disrespect. The man who didn't chase, but always showed up whole. The man who held the mirror steady, then walked away when she refused to face it. But by then, it won't matter. Because you'll have built a life so solid, so rooted in truth, so immovable that no illusion can shake it. That's your reward, not her regret, but your peace. Let them live in their world, a world where feelings drown facts, where blame replaces reflection, where accountability is foreign. But you remain in reality. You stand in truth. You build slowly, carefully, with women who don't flinch at honesty, who don't break at boundaries, who don't run from strength. Those are the women worth building with. The rest, leave them to dance in delusion. You've got bigger things to create, a kingdom to build, and no fantasy belongs on your throne.